Sports Richard here with Satisfying Football. These are the 3:30 games for Week 8 of college football. Oklahoma State and Iowa State, big game in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, they've been winning with defense. They beat Texas 32-24. Spencer Sanders, 178 passing, a touchdown, a pick, +1 rushing. Jalen Warren went off for 193 yards, and defensively they had an interception return for a touchdown, which helped them get back into that game. Texas was up 17-3. They had a pick 6 and then came all the way back. Iowa State, they had a nice win against Kansas State, 33-20. Brock Purdy, 22-25, 208, and a touchdown. Breece Hall, one of the best running backs in the nation, 197 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. He opened the game with a 75-yard touchdown run. This is going to be a really close game. Both Iowa State's got a really good offense and plays solid defense. Oklahoma State has been playing really good defense this year, and their offense has been really shoddy. Spencer Sanders, Jalen Warren was a find. He was a transfer from UTSA and has been amazing. Spencer Sanders has been extremely inconsistent. I think Iowa State's going to win for that reason. I think Sanders is going to make too many mistakes, turnover a few times too many. Iowa State will be able to capitalize and score. So I've got Iowa State upsetting number 8 Oklahoma State. All right, Oregon and UCLA. Oregon, they barely got past the not a very good Cal team, 24-17. Anthony Brown, 244 passing, a touchdown, +44 rushing, and a touchdown. Travis Dye ran for 145 and a touchdown. Noah Sewell had 12 tackles, a sack, 1.5 tackles for loss, and a pass defense in that game. UCLA, they beat a pretty decent Washington team, 24-17. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 183 passing, 2 touchdowns, +87 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Zach Charbonnet ran for 131 yards in that game. This could be kind of a high-scoring game, but I'm actually going to go with UCLA in this one. Oregon, they've struggled a lot, especially against kind of, quote, inferior opponents. And I think UCLA, it might just be the better overall team. All right, could be looking at another shootout here in the SEC, LSU and Ole Miss. LSU, they were able to get past Florida 49-42. Max Johnson was solid, 133 and 3 touchdowns, but Davis Price ran for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns, a school record for rushing yards. They ran for 321 yards as a team. Defensive player Damon Clark had 11 tackles in the game. Defensively, they forced 4 turnovers and had an interception return for a touchdown in that one. Ole Miss was able to get past Tennessee, and Tennessee's fans throwing garbage all over the place. Ole Miss 131-26. Matt Corral, 231 passing and 2 touchdowns, and ran for 195 yards. They put up 510 yards of offense. Defensively, Mark Robinson, 14 tackles, 2 sacks, 5 tackles for losses in that game. And Jake Springer had 11 tackles, 1 sack, and a tackle for loss. Again, this is going to be a shootout. This is going to go back and forth, but I think Ole Miss will have the last shot in that one. All right, Clemson and Pitt. Clemson barely got past Syracuse 17-14. DJ Uiagalelei, 181 passing and a touchdown. Baylon Spector had 10 tackles. Pitt, they did pretty well against Virginia Tech, 28-7. Kenny Pickett has been on a roll this year. He's a possible dark horse Heisman candidate. 203 passing, 2 touchdowns, +38 rushing yards and a touchdown. Israel Abanikanda ran for 140 yards. I keep picking against Clemson because they suck. Their defense is really good. Their offense is terrible. I think they met their match finally this time. Pitt has a good offense and a good defense. I think Pitt will win that game. All right, Rice and UAB. Rice, they got destroyed by UTSA 45-0. They had 2 quarterbacks combined for 8 of 16, 36 yards, 2 interceptions, and 102 total yards. UAB, they beat Southern Miss 34-0. Dylan Hopkins was fine, 147 passing, a touchdown, +1 on the ground. DeWayne McBride ran for 137 and a touchdown. Defensive player Noah Wilder had 14 tackles. Defensively, they only allowed 107 total yards and had a blocked punt return for a touchdown. I think it would be much of the same. UAB has one of the best defenses in the country and should be able to outlast and get past Rice. All right, Maryland and Minnesota. Maryland coming off a bye. They got destroyed their last game by Ohio State, 66-17. Talia Tagovailoa, 279 passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Minnesota, they were able to beat Nebraska 30-23. Tanner Morgan, 209 passing, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Bryce Williams filled in for Trey Potts. They've had unfortunate luck at the running back positions. One of the best in the country, Mohamed Ibrahim, got hurt in their first game, even though he ran for 163 yards. Trayson Potts took over. He's run for 100 yards in like 3 straight games. He was hurt, but Bryce Williams picked right up and ran for 127 yards himself. Chris Ottman-Bell came back from injury, 11 catches, 103 yards, and a touchdown. And defensively, they had a safety. This could be a shootout. Maryland's offense is pretty potent, but I'm going to say Minnesota, they kind of are finding some consistency here. Tanner Morgan's playing better, and I think a lot of that has to do with Ottman-Bell being back, one of the better wide receivers in the Big Ten. I'm going to say Minnesota wins a very close game. Miami of Ohio and Ball State. Miami of Ohio beat Akron 34-21. A.J. Meyer 229 and 3 touchdowns. Jack Sorensen 5 catches, 113 and a touchdown. Ball State, they beat Eastern Michigan 38-31. Drew Plitt 207 and a touchdown. Carson Steele ran for 138 and a touchdown. Bryce Cosby had 10 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. And wide receiver Justin Hall, he's been consistent all his career. He's got 1 catch in 50 straight games going in. Ball State, I think Miami of Ohio's got a pretty solid team, but Ball State 4-3. They want to try to get maybe to a MAC title game. I think Ball State wins. Western Michigan and Toledo. Western Michigan, they destroyed Kent State 64-31. It was close at halftime. They were only up 23-16, and then did whatever they wanted after halftime. Caleb Ellaby passed for 307 and 3 touchdowns, ran for 33 yards and a touchdown. Sean Tyler ran for 169 and a touchdown. Jalen Hall, 5 catches, 144 yards and a touchdown. Sky Moore, 8 catches, 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 648 yards of offense and 5 sacks defensively. Toledo lost in overtime to Central Michigan 26-23. Jaquan Finn, 15-32, 208, but he did run for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Winstead, 4 catches, 108. And Maxton Hook, 11 tackles, 1 sack, and a tackle for loss. So, Toledo, they've been underperforming this year. Western Michigan, they look like maybe the best team in the MAC. I'm going to say Western Michigan will win that game. All right, Buffalo and Akron. Buffalo came back. They were down 26-10 against Ohio and won 27-26. Kyle Van Treese, 261 passing, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Dylan McDuffie ran for 143 and a touchdown. James Patterson, 15 tackles and a tackle for loss in that game. Akron, they lost to Miami of Ohio 34-21. Zach Gibson had a good game, 291 passing and 3 touchdowns. Quinana Mumfield, 10 catches, 109 yards. I'm going to say this would be kind of a closer game than people think. Buffalo is favored by 11. Might be slightly closer than that. I think Buffalo should win. All right, Colorado and Cal. 2 not very good teams in the Pac-12. Colorado beat Arizona 34-0. Brandon Lewis, 248 passing and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Rice, 3 catches, 111 and a touchdown. Defensively, had a block punt return for a touchdown and an interception return for a touchdown. Cal played Oregon really close. They almost were able to beat them. They lost 24-17. Chase Garber's passed for 247, 2 touchdowns. Colin Gamble, 11 tackles. Moella Iosefa, 10 tackles and a tackle for loss. I'm going to say Cal is a better team here. There's a few games they could have won this year, and they should be able to beat Colorado. BYU and Washington State. BYU, they lost to Baylor 38-24. Jaron Hall, 342 passing and a touchdown, plus 25 rushing yards and a touchdown. Pua Nakua, 5 catches, 168 and a touchdown reception. Washington State, they had a nice win against Stanford, 34-21 win. Jaden Delore, 289 passing and 3 touchdowns. Defensively, 4 sacks in that game. This will be an interesting game because the coach for Washington State, we'll see if he even has a job. He's being stupid about the vaccine, so we'll see if he loses his job this week. That could make a difference in this game. I still go with Washington State. I think BYU has been way overrated, and they've proven that with losses to Baylor and Boise State. I think Washington State should win. All right, New Mexico and Wyoming. New Mexico, they got destroyed by Colorado State 36-7. CJ Montez was horrible. 3 of 19 for 11 yards and 2 interceptions. They had 79 total yards and 3 turnovers in the game. Jarek Reed had 13 tackles. Warner Wilson had 12 tackles. Defensively, they did have 4 sacks and a punt return for a touchdown. Wyoming, they got shut out by Fresno State 17-0. Sean Chambers, 8 of 23, 111 yards, 3 interceptions. They turned over 5 times in that game. Chad Muma had 11 tackles. Isaias Gandy had 11 tackles and a half tackle for loss. I think Wyoming bounces back. I have one of the best defenses in the nation. They have a strong running game normally. They just played a pretty good team in Fresno State. I think Wyoming shouldn't have too much trouble with New Mexico. All right, Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Mississippi State got killed by Alabama, 49-9. Will Rogers, 300 passing yards, 3 interceptions. They had -1 rushing yards and 3 turnovers in the game. Nate Watson, 16 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss. Fred Peters had 10 tackles. Jet Johnson had 10 tackles and a half tackle for loss. Vanderbilt, they lost on a last late touchdown to South Carolina, 21-20. Mike Wright, 206 passing, a touchdown, a pick, plus 41 rushing yards. Will Shepard, 3 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. They did force 4 turnovers, but weren't able to make that stand up. I think this is not going to be close. I think Mississippi State's offense will be way too tough for Vanderbilt to handle. I think Mississippi State wins, and wins pretty big. All right, Liberty and North Texas. Liberty was shocked by Louisiana Monroe, 31-23. Malik Willis, 135 passing, a touchdown. His second game, though, throwing 3 interceptions, which is what hurt them. He did run for 157 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Rashad Harding, 15 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3.5 tackles for loss. Elijah James, 12 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Story Jackson, 10 tackles, half a sack, half a tackle for loss. Defensively, they had 6 sacks in that game, in that loss to Louisiana Monroe. North Texas, they lost to Marshall, 49-21. Austin Ani, only 121 passing yards, 2 interceptions thrown. DeAndre Torrey had a really good game, 179 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So they ran for 277 as a team. I think Liberty needs to clean up their turnovers, especially Malik Willis needs to not throw interceptions. North Texas has not been a very good team. They have the offensive scheme to keep up with people. If Liberty turns it over, North Texas could make them pay. I think they do clean things up, though. I think Liberty wins that one and gets to 6-2 and gets to bowl eligibility. All right, the ACC, Boston College and Louisville. Boston College got killed by North Carolina State, 33-7. Dennis Carlson, 194, a touchdown and a pick. Louisville, they coming off a bye. They lost in a late touchdown to Virginia, only lost 34-33. Malik Cunningham, 270 passing, a touchdown and 38 rushing yards. Hall ran for 162 and a touchdown. Tyler Harrell, 2 catches, 100 yards and a touchdown. They did put up 503 yards of offense, and defensively had 5 sacks. I think Louisville will be the one that bounces back. I think their offense will be too much for Boston College to really handle, and I think Louisville should win. All right, Eastern Carolina, Houston. Eastern Carolina is coming off a bye. They almost beat UCF. They lost late, 20-16. Holton Nailers, 219, a touchdown and a pick. They turned over 3 times in that close loss. Houston beat Tulane 40-22. Clayton Tune, 288 passing, 3 touchdowns. Defensively, they had 8 sacks in that game. Houston looks like one of the best teams in the American. They're 5-1, trying to get to a bowl game. This could be a bit of a shootout, but I'm going to go Houston wins that one. All right, Tennessee and Alabama. Tennessee lost Ole Miss 31-26. Hendon Hooker, 233 passing, a touchdown, plus 108 rushing and a touchdown. Jeremy Banks, 15 tackles, a sack, and 2 tackles for loss. Aaron Beasley, 10 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Defensively, had 5 sacks against Ole Miss. Alabama, they beat Mississippi State 49-9. Bryce Young still up there for Heisman, pass for 348, 4 touchdowns. John Mechie, 7 catches, 117 and a touchdown. They had 543 total yards. Henry To'o, 13 tackles, 1 sack, 1.5 tackles for loss. Will Anderson had 4 sacks in that game. Defensively, he had 7 sacks, 3 turnovers, and an interception return for a touchdown. It depends if Hendon Hooker got hurt late against Tennessee. If he can come back in this game for Tennessee, I think Alabama may lose their second game of the season. I'm going to pick Alabama. Huge upset alert for Alabama. All right, big game in the Mountain West. When number 22 and undefeated 6-0 San Diego State taking on 6-1 Air Force. San Diego State, they beat San Jose State in double overtime, 19-13. Jordan Brookshire, 132 passing, couldn't do much, so Lucas Johnson came in, 38 passing yards, but he had 2 touchdown passes, which helped them to win. Patrick McMorris had 12 tackles and 3 passes defensed. Air Force, they beat Boise State in Boise 24-17. Brad Roberts ran for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. They got that triple option going. They ran for 307 yards as a team. Alec Mock, 11 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss. This is going to be a really interesting game. Air Force has a strong defense and a good running game. One of the top running, if they're not number 1 in the nation and rushing, they're number 2. They have a triple option game. San Diego State, they don't have a triple option, but they like to run the ball. They do it well. They always have one of the best defenses in the nation, statistically speaking. Might be a short game. Both of them run it. This may be like a 3-hour game at that. Man, I'm kind of leaning towards Air Force. Air Force looks really good, but it's San Diego State. I'm gonna go with San Diego State in that defense. Maybe they can force a errant pitch for that option and get a touchdown defensively. I'm gonna go with San Diego State to win that one. That really close game. UTSA and Louisiana Tech. UTSA, they are ranked. They are 7-0, ranked number 24 in the country. They beat Rice 45-0. Frank Harris, 125 passing, 2 touchdowns, plus 47 rushing yards and a touchdown. Sincere McCormick ran for 117 defensively. They only allowed 102 yards and had 2 interception returns for touchdowns. Louisiana Tech, they lost to UTEP 19-3. Austin Kendall, 164 passing. He threw 3 interceptions in that game. Trey Baldwin had 12 tackles defensively. They did force 4 turnovers, but could not do anything. UTSA looks really good this year. I think they go to 8-0 and beat Louisiana Tech. Western Kentucky and Florida International. Western Kentucky, they destroyed Old Dominion 43-20. Bailey Zappi, 397 passing, 5 touchdown passes. Jareth Stearns, 13 receptions, 221 receiving yards, and a touchdown. They put up 518 total yards. Jareth Stearns, watch out for that name. You're going to play on Sundays. He's had double-digit catches in the last 3 games. Already in their, 6 games they've played this year? Yeah, 6 games. He has 69 catches for 900-something yards. He'll get over 1,000 next week. Miguel Edwards, 10 tackles, 2 passes defensed. A.J. Braithwaite, 10 tackles, 1 pass defense. Defensively, they had 5 sacks and forced 3 turnovers in that game. Florida International coming off a bye. They lost to Charlotte 45-33. Max Bortenschlager passed for 466 and 4 touchdowns. Tyrese Chambers, get this, 3 catches, 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. All he does is catch long passes. He averages about 33.9 yards per catch, which if he keeps that going, I think will set the FBS record by the end of the season. They put up 538 yards of offense. This could be a shootout. This could be a back and forth kind of game. But I'm going to go the over-under is 76.5. It might get to that. I'm going to go with the Western Kentucky. Should be able to move it all over Florida International and win. All right, the Temple Owls and the USF Bulls. Temple coming off a bye. They got destroyed by Cincinnati 52-3. DeJuan Mathis, 120 passing and a pick. They had 3 turnovers in that game. Amir Tyler had 11 tackles and a tackle for loss. USF almost beat Tulsa. They lost late 32-31. Tim McLean, 10-25, 148, plus 1 rushing. Vincent Davis, 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Defensively, they forced 3 turnovers, had an interception return for a touchdown, and a kick return for a touchdown. They weren't able to put it all together and finish off with a victory. USF is favored at 2.5. I'm not sure about that. I mean, USF probably could have a couple more wins, but Temple, they're both kind of inconsistent. But I'm gonna say Temple comes away with the victory. All right, South Alabama and Louisiana Monroe, kind of an interesting game. USA is 4-2. ULM has come back. They beat a good Liberty team last week. They're 3-3. USA, they beat Georgia Southern 41-14. Jake Bentley, 389 passing, 3 touchdown passes, plus 2 rushing on the ground. Jalen Tolbert, 11 catches, 174 and a touchdown. Jalen Wayne, 7 catches, 117 and a touchdown. They had 545 yards of offense and 4 sacks defensively. Louisiana Monroe beat Liberty 31-28. Chandler Rogers, 255 passing, 2 touchdowns, a pick, plus 42 rushing yards. Zach Woodard, 10 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1.5 tackles for loss. Defensively, one of them was the 3 turnovers and 4 sacks in that game. This could be a pretty close game. Louisiana Monroe has been playing really well under Terry Bowden, but South Alabama, I think Jake Bentley's doing really well at quarterback, and Jalen Tolbert, one of the best receivers you guys have never heard of. I'm going to say South Alabama wins. And the final game of the midday games is Nevada and Fresno. Huge game in the Mountain West. 5-1, 5-2, 5 wins for both teams. Nevada, they were able to beat Hawaii 34-17. Carson Strong, 395 and 2 touchdown passes. Cole Turner, 12 catches, 175 yards. Defensively, had 5 sacks and 5 turnovers forced in that game. Fresno, State, they won with their defense. They beat Wyoming 17-0. Jacob Hayner, one of the top passers in the country, only 96 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. So they forced 5 turnovers, which is what helped them win that game. This is going to be a shootout. This is going to be all over the place, all over the yard. If you like passing offenses, you're going to want to watch this game. I actually can't wait for this game. That being said, I'm going to go with Fresno State here. I think their defense may just be a little bit better than Nevada, but like I said, the ball's going to be up in the air. This really could go either way. It should be a fun game. I'm going to go Fresno State to win that one. All right, check out my other games and my other picks and my other videos later. Peace.